Shortly around last year, Hoyoverse finally released the long-awaited Natlan Region for Genshin Impact. After years of speculation about what the nation or war would be, the first thing we saw when it was announced was colorful creatures. This caused quite an uproar amongst the community, summoning a region that looked like it was ravaged by war. Not this, however. Natlan is based on Latin America, so it does make sense for it to be so vibrant. Know that, however, not everything has to be so climactic for me, since it was a nice change of pace from the courtrooms of Fontaine, and the story was mostly okay, minus the fact that huge portions felt drawn out, except the final act and the war section actually having consequences to your actions. Ever since the region came out, people have been constantly complaining. Most glaring was the skin colors. Oh my god, if you were on Genshin Twitter during that time, you know how much of a war zone that was. It got so bad that they brought out the white pharaoh. That's how you know things were getting heated. This was also an issue in Sumeru, but with Natlan it was amplified since people thought Hoyo would do better this time. And oh, how wrong they were. At the time of the 5.0 patch, our darkest characters were Shilonen and Moalani, who weren't that dark. Everyone else was pretty white. And it wouldn't be until 5.5 that we would get our darkest Natlan unit. Yet the next point of controversy would be the exploration, with characters having this Night Soul gimmick, which is only accessible in one region. If you wanted to extend the duration to what it would be in Natlan in other regions, too bad, you have to pull a duplicate to get that. Another issue was the creatures just having terrible alternatives to the characters with that same ability, so there's really no point unless you don't have a specific unit, which made some people feel forced into pulling characters. But somehow, if you still didn't feel like you had to, just see the Spiral of Beasts during that year, and oh my god, the Night Soul Glaze was abysmal. If you didn't have Natlan characters, good luck cause you're not clearing that. And it gets worse. When Mawika came out, they had Lolly with her. At the same time, it was so diabolical to have two limited 5-stars run at the same time, and they were essential for Abyss, because if you didn't have Mawika's premium team in the Abyss, yeah, you're done, buddy. Also, with Mawika nuking anything on screen, this caused rampant HP inflation, just like in Honkai Star Rail with Acheron, so have fun clearing with older units. And finally, the story for the region being too reliant on the power of friendship without real stakes, along with the fact that at the time the SAG-AFTRA strikes were ongoing, leading to many characters across the games losing their voices for the English dub, leading to a less impactful story. Now, who was making the biggest uproar? Was it the supposed insulted Latin American fans who were being represented? Or was it the American fandom? If you guessed American fans, then you're correct. Once again, left-leaning Westerners feel the need to be offended on behalf of other groups, which is how you get the creation of that one slur I won't even say because it is so foul. But how did the Latin Americans respond? They cheered on Natlan. They were hyped for the new region that was being based on their culture. They were shouting things like, "Viva Natlan!" So take this as a lesson to not tell people what should offend them. So, the loudest people claiming offense were mostly compromised people that weren't even a part of that culture to even begin with. It's a classic case of one group policing what another group should be thinking. Onto a glaring issue so big I had to make it its entire section. The pyro arc on herself, Mawika. Of course, there's that whole issue with her being white that people took issue with, as she was inspired by the Maori goddess of the same name. But that is nothing compared to the issue that arose from one part of her kit that caused a whole discussion as to what fits into the game. And that issue is her motorcycle. Now, it would make sense as to how it was written in the world, so for people who read the lore, it doesn't really matter. But that didn't stop people from causing an uproar. Mind you, this is the Genshin fandom, and most of these people can't read. And also, the people complaining are the same people that were praising the main character having a spaceship, which just came out of nowhere at the introduction of an intermission chapter after Natlan, because they were finally done with the region. Now, how worse could the Mawika situation be? Maybe the fact that her motorcycle lets her use all but one of the traversal abilities to the region, albeit for a shorter time, but still, it is insanely broken. Now, onto the actual design of the region itself. It is quite colorful, representing the vibrant Latin American color palette, making it one of the nicest looking regions with its mountains covered in graffiti and colorful yucca stores. The traversal is just as nice too. Now, it could be said I enjoy more thanks to the fact that I have quite a few Natlan characters in my possession to make Natlan exploration far more convenient for me. But still, it is quite fun exploring every nook and cranny of the region, especially due to the region's gimmick. Now onto the characters themselves, they're great for the most part, but I do have a heavy bias on the characters based on Mexican culture, as they are represented quite well, and I quite enjoy them a lot. And for the music of the region, mwah, chef's kiss.
Yo, yo, yo! Ah!
Was Natlan really as bad as people claimed it to be? Well, after a year of constant complaints, far from it. It wasn't the greatest, but it was still good and definitely far from the flop that people wanted to claim it was. Now my own criticism is that the Cholos should have been in the game. I mean, they were in the promotional art, but not the game. Come on, Hoyo.
Lex, I tried to stop him.
It's fine, Heather. Superman, we finally meet. Would you like a coffee?
Where's the dog?
Of course, the fact that tacos here have baked tortillas for some reason. Like, the comales not exist here, but with those two minor complaints. I quite enjoyed the time we had in Natlan, and I do miss Natlan even now as we head into the Natlan region of the game. Well, if you made it this far, you know the drill, like, comment, subscribe, all this stuff. If you enjoyed the video, it helps me a lot. And I'd like to grow to reach more people as I get better at these sorts of videos. Uploads may start getting frequent again depending on how busy I get as finals approach, but it should be fine for the most part, and until next week, see ya.